IVM.
On this episode of Paisa Vaisa, the Delhi recordings continue. I speak with Amit Kumar Gupta, Fund Manager PMS at Adroit Financial Services. It's a market strategy special, but we're going to talk about a lot of what Amit and Adroit do in terms of research. Really different kind of research, going on the ground and finding out the deep reality of what's there as compared to what you hear. Folks, don't go anywhere. This is a really special episode of Paisa Vaisa coming up next.
Advertising is dead. Yep, you heard me right. Advertising is dead. We're all in the content business now. Let's not call it news, TV, radio, etc., etc. It's all content, and we're in the middle of this weirdly exciting phase where all the borders and lines that have been drawn over decades has been swept away by this lovely thing called the internet. We're a show where we don't dwell on just the stuff that is now, but rather the wider stuff about advertising, media, content, and the whole goddamn circus surrounding it. Tune in every Tuesday for our weekly unboxing of the mystery box we used to call advertising. I'm Varun Dugirala, co-founder and content chief at The Glitch, and this is my new podcast, Advertising is Dead.
Folks, welcome to Paisa Vaisa. I'm your host Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter. The Delhi recordings continue. I'm absolutely thrilled to have a really special guest, Amit Kumar Gupta, Fund Manager PMS at Adroit Financial Services Private Limited. Now, why Amit? So we've interacted a couple of times on Deepak Shenoy, of course. Hi Deepak Shenoy, if you're listening to this, the platform that you've got is really helping. I met Amit on that platform and he's also fairly active on Twitter. I really liked Amit's observations on the economy, the sectors that are there in India. And then when I had a look at Adroit, I really like the fact that they use a lot of on-the-ground research, something that's called Scuttlebutt in our investment parlance, about how you get a better feel of a sector, of a theme, probably of a stock by actually talking to people on the ground. Right, because for a lot of us, the annual report is like a starting document for understanding a company, but there's a lot of value in, I think, what's called secondary research. And now Amit will take us through that entire process. And let me, in fact, hand over the mic to him directly. So, Amit, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this really special episode of Paisa Vaisa. Let's start with your background. Let's start with Adroit Financial Services. You know, how it evolved, and then after that, we'll go into the certain process. So welcome to Paisa Vaisa. Thanks so much for doing this for us. Let's start from here.
Yeah, thanks, Anupam. Thanks for having me. And it has been an absolute pleasure to be here and discuss about, all the stuff which we have planned to. I have been associated with Adroit for almost a decade now, and it's part of the family business. So Adroit Financial is basically a Delhi-based brokerage house. We started in 93, 94. So earlier we started as simply as a broker to another broker, and used to do trading via phone. At that point of time, they used to be trading on the phone. After that, we got our license in early 2000. We got our license for NSE and BSE. So after that, we started trading in commodities in 2004. 2009, we started commodities trading. And 2010-11, I started being associated with Adroit Financial on a full-time basis. That's where I started the research desk. So we are now almost 9 years into the research desk. And very recently, we have also started offering PMS services to the clients.
Very interesting, right? So having spent almost 9-10 years on the research desk, you know what it takes to research a sector, research a stock, and then get a recommendation out of that. The entire purpose of doing all that research is to then go to your client and tell him to buy or sell a stock or have a certain position in a sector. Now, I want you to take our listeners through this process of Scuttlebutt, what exactly it is, certain, the procedures that you have, the things that you do, and what are the main conclusions that come out of your research? Probably some themes. And then when we go on the other side of the break, we'll talk about specific recommendations. But I want to just spend now this time on the first half of this episode to give our listeners a flavor of the kind of research that is there, because I know for a fact that it's fairly rigorous. It's quite detailed. It's quite, the insights that you get from there It's not something that you'll get if you just stay on your desk and watch CNBC or you talk to 10 people.
Yeah.
Let's start from there.
So basically, any research can be divided into like two parts. One is the primary research and second is the secondary research. So secondary research is usually what you can do sitting at your home, sitting at your counter, sitting at your terminal, just Googling stuff, reading about it, making conclusions out of it. So secondary research can be something like, reading annual reports, going through the con call transcripts, reading management interviews, listening to management interviews, what they are doing. That's the work which we have to do to once we have identified a trend, then it comes. But how do you actually identify a trend? So for that, the primary research comes in, something called as Scuttlebutt, where you are actually saying, show me a trend. So, and to see that trend, you have to travel. So we have got a wonderful primary research team who actually goes on to the ground. They travel all across the India, so like almost 15-20 days. They are right on the ground and they are working for us and giving us inputs based on which we can actually formulate our investment strategy. So and that could be something like change in not just an economic trend, but a cultural trend or a socio-political trend.
This is exactly what I want you to know. So if you can share with the listeners this entire 9-10 years, let's talk about the past. When you've spent a lot of time doing this, some interesting insights that you've got that maybe the mainstream guys totally miss, maybe something that your other research would not tell you. Let's just spend some time talking about that.
So I'll give you a couple of examples. So one was that there was a point in 2012-13 when we were very excited about education stocks for some reason. Our team was very excited about it. So I said, okay, let's do a survey for the busiest entrance examination city, which is Kota. Okay, in Rajasthan. So we went there and, it's a hub for coaching institutes and there's so many people out there, so many students who are actually preparing for IIT examinations and medical examinations. And what we found is that talking to those kids on the ground, we said that these are not going to make it. It may sound very rude, and when we wrote that report also, it was sounded very rude. But we said that they are under so much pressure to perform that this is not going to really work. And we decided not to buy any of the education stocks. In fact, that was in our list of never to touch those stocks. And most of the education stocks have actually not done well.
They bombed.
They have bombed in the past decade or so. So that was, one weekend trip can give us that insight, which and a lot of this Treehouse and Educomp and all, people were dying to buy, dying to average them, and we couldn't find a reason to do that. So
I'm assuming that some of that was also backed by looking at the annual reports or whatever they were saying. But the core, I guess, is the research on the ground kind of thing.
Yeah, see, so there are, two angles to it. One is that sometimes you get very excited about reading about a company on your own. But when you go on the ground, you don't find enough reason.
Yeah,
something which happened with, like, now it's much popular, but Manpasand also, so we had a similar view when the IPO was launched.
Right.
We couldn't find the product much on the ground. So we decided not to pursue it. So sometimes it could be a very simple checklist of selecting and rejecting a stock, that you're not able to find enough evidence on the ground that this product or this company has a scalability to do like, let's say, 10 years business actually in the ground.
Okay. Anything that you guys figured after or around demonetization? Because that was a massive event here in India. Anything that you guys had done just coincidentally at that point of time that showed you? Because on the entire formalization of India, informal to formal, ye to theme I've lost track of since how many years it's going on. Around demonetization, as you know, the market first tanked for a couple of months. So we again went down, see what is the situation, and we could find that most people were
most companies rather were actually pretty comfortable with demonetization. So after almost like a month or so, when we were traveling around in UP, MP, nobody was really bothered about demonetization. So I said कि यार ये बॉम्बे वाले इतना परेशान क्यों हैं?
Yeah, because the noise was everything is over.
Yeah, everything is over, and so we couldn't figure out, and people get used to it. The beauty about India is that we are so much we adaptable. I mean, how many people actually go out and they live in any kind of condition, they eat any kind of food. We are the most adaptable people across. So we said, "Yaar, demonetization, it's all fraud. Nothing will happen. Let's start buying aggressively." And we actually did. So you talk to people, you come to know that उनकी life पे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ा. Demonetization हुआ था. It's all media noise. Sometimes you have to filter that noise also. That's why Scuttlebutt is important.
Okay, have you done this yourself personally?
Yes, I've done.
Great.
That.
So can you just take our listeners through the process, because this sounds really fascinating. I don't. For me, if I just go to a pan patti ka dukaan and just say, "Sir, क्या लगता है आपको?" He might reply, might not reply. So can you tell, maybe some anecdotes, some experiences of how this entire process works?
So, about 5 years ago, we saw that the data for electricity, that data was actually rising for almost like 2-3 years. So what we found was our office is in Kaushambi, which is very close to when you are crossing from Delhi to Ghaziabad. So what we found was that the electricity all across India, the consumption was increasing. So, but the area which we were here located, in that area there was a power cut of almost 14 hours, 15 hours a day. UP है, उल्टा ही चलता है, उल्टा प्रदेश है. So we said, यार, अगर consumption increase हो रहा है, power generation is getting increased, so the consumption increasing? So we did a survey across our office, very close to our office. So we went to a couple of societies, and these were societies which we have around 200 to 220 people living there. About 30-40 flats are there. And we said, okay, show us your electricity bills. So they show us the electricity bill. The consumption was slightly higher. But we said, यार इससे तो कुछ ज़्यादा पता नहीं चल रहा. We are not able to figure it out. Then we went to the society's head, and they showed us that the generator which they were using as a backup, that generator's in expense, that has gone down by 50% in the past 2 years. So because the generator there was getting used less, the consumption was going up. So people were getting used not to use generator and actually start using their own regulation. So because earlier what used to happen, आप गए, आपने वो generator on किया, now people are getting used to it. So consumption is increasing steadily. So we said, boss, this is going to be now the case where the consumption will actually shoot up. People will start using more consumer durables. So we actually went ahead and bought a little bit of consumer durable stocks, which we fitted into our strategy and the valuation framework which we had.
Would that have been negative for DG sets?
For
DG sets? Maybe because you're consuming less. So.
Yes. So we were actually negative. Obviously, you cannot short because they're not in the FNO.
Correct.
But we went and bought. And then, from there, from one particular strategy, you can come up with multiple stocks.
Correct.
So, for example, we thought कि यार AC ज़्यादा लगेंगे. सारी ये 4 में है तो AC तो ज़्यादा लगेंगे. But the AC stocks are very expensive. Voltas is like 40p, Symphony is at 80p. So we said कि यार valuation framework में तो ये आ नहीं रहा, इतना महंगा, तो we cannot buy. So what we can do? Correct. So then we said, okay, let's find the chemical company which actually puts the AC, the gas in the AC, the fluorocarbon, or the refrigerator. Because agar electricity aa rahi hai, to people will use refrigerator more. So let's find that chemical company which puts the fluorocarbons in that. Okay, or find that that company at that point of time, no company was listed, but let's find that company which actually puts electronics design on these ACs or the refrigerators.
Because suppliers will not get the same multiple as the end manufacturer.
End manufacturer.
Brand to hai nahi.
So that's how you actually, with a one little survey of about 3 days, we were able to identify at least 3 to 4 almost sort of big compounders which can grow 15 to 20% over the next 5 years.
Fantastic. Politics has been a massive theme for for India since 2009, even 2014, 2019, as we saw the elections. And I find a lot of, एक तो discussions तो होते ही है politics पे, but even from the stock market's perspective, a lot of people want to know how politicians think, what is the feel on the ground for the people who are there, who are probably seeing their leader, their MP, their MLA, and then try and extrapolate ki bhai, how does this translate into a national theme? So anything on the politics side that you feel is interesting, that gives you an insight on the market impact of politics?
Actually, we are recording this 2 days after the corporate rate tax has come. Now the negativity is gone from the market. But see, the political is a very sensitive topic in India. We get less feedback on our economic post, and we get more feedback on the political post, and people just love to discuss politics. So what we always do a survey before the state elections or the central elections, like what happened. And what we have found is that you have to, people can lie also. They may not,
absolutely
on your face, people can. That we found out in the recent elections.
बोलते कुछ है करते कुछ है.
So that's what we found out in the recent elections also, that a lot of them were actually not saying things against the incumbent government at that point of time, but they actually went ahead and voted for them.
Anyway for them.
Voted anyways for them. So a lot of marketing blitz also comes into it. Sometimes that happens with the marketing, the people are not able to understand. So like in 2015 Bihar elections, the BJP was using 3D logos while doing campaigning, was making big putlas and doing all that jazzy stuffs. So thoda upar se nikal gaya logo ke. So and they did not voted for BJP in that state election.
Very interesting.
So sometimes when you just observe things around you, you get an idea कि क्या होने वाला है. So obviously our trading team then take positions based on that, do option strategies as well.
You've spoken a lot about how this has helped you, given you the right directions. Any anecdote, any experience, any story of when it's gone totally wrong? अब आपके रिसर्च ने एक चीज बोली, असली में और ही कुछ हो गया.
So 2019 elections was quite a similar. We got every election since 2014 absolutely bang on in terms of how many seats will be won. Approximately 5-10% is here and there, but we were bang on. But in the 2019 elections, our survey said that the BJP is going to get about 210 kind of seats, and our primary reason was that whatever we are going, people were not happy with BJP, but they were not against also.
Okay.
So he said कि यार ये तो this will twist. That we cannot predict. But actually went ahead and there was a clean sweep. Overwhelming majority, 300 plus. So in that sense, sometimes that can fail. But as far as like stocks is concerned, I cannot actually recall right now.
That's okay. But elections itself is a big one to get wrong, and that also by such a big margin. So folks, that is a wrap on the first part of this episode. Right, we spoke a lot about the research that Adroit does, the research that Amit has done, the themes that have come across from that. On the other side of this break, now, guys, we're going to talk about specific recommendations, because Amit's job and Adroit's job is actually to recommend sectors and stocks to their clients, right? So we're going to be in the kya lagta hai mode on the second half of this recording. We're going to tell you exactly what Amit's take is on sectors going forward. Of course, this episode might be a recording in September. That actually doesn't make any difference, right, Amit? Because your recommendations are fairly long term.
Yeah, I mean, the investment strategy would probably remain the same. And we have been like investing according to that framework, and that should not change in a month.
Yeah,
unless
there is a corporate tax rate cut or demonetization.
Unless FM's, gives a new bazooka.
Which is possible. क्या बॉस क्या चल रहा है मार्केट में यार? लोग बोल रहे हैं ये फ्राइडे को पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स रेट कट आ रहा है. थोड़ा संभाल लो यार. इतना गुड न्यूज देंगे तो मतलब.
So that's what happens. The sentiment changes very fast in the market, both from bullish to bearish and bearish to bullish.
But abhi kya you actually think? I mean, by any chances are going to? Who knows? By the time people hear this, there might have been a personal income tax record, and we'll look like we didn't expect this.
Actually, the FM has actually denied on Sunday that there will be no personal income tax rate cut till budget at least.
Okay.
But with this comment, you probably don't know.
Okay, folks, just let's hope it happens.
Let's hope it happens. Yeah. It needs to happen.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, folks, don't go anywhere. We'll be back on the other side of this. Yeah, I'm going to call this the Scuttlebutt special. Okay, I love this. This is not research that you hear very often, from a lot of research that goes on outside. So I'm going to call this episode the Scuttlebutt special. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Amit Kumar Gupta from Adroit Financial Services on the Scuttlebutt special. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Also like to thank Intel and Storytel for supporting us this month. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by print and TV journalist and founder of fact-checking platform Boom, Govind Ethiraj. He talks to Cyrus about the importance of fact-checking in today's scenario, the birth of the India Fact Check quiz, and poses some sample questions to Cyrus himself. The Fintrekk Coffee podcast is back with freshly brewed episodes. This week, Karthik talks to Senior VP of Marketing, Digital and Communications at Penguin Random House India, Neeti Kumar. Neeti explains Penguin's unique editorial system, the challenges faced by publishers regarding piracy, and her take on the digital revolution. On Mr. and Mrs. Binge Watch, Janice and Anirudh are back to share their love for the true crime stories. This week, they talk about the hit Netflix show Mindhunter. On Advertising is Dead, Varun is joined by the CEO of Scoop Whoop, Satvik Mishra. They talk about how Satvik became an accidental entrepreneur. On Simplified, Chuck and Naren simplify conglomerates like Luxottica, Unilever, and even IVM Podcast. Yeah, we're a conglomerate. We're a big, big conglomerate. This week on Know Your Kanun, Amber is joined by Pawan Kakade, partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers. They talk about the taxation system in India and topics around economy, startups, compliance regimes, and even more. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Folks, welcome back to the Scuttlebutt special, the really interesting and engrossing episode of Paisa Vaisa. A funky guest, Amit Kumar Gupta of Adroit Financial Services. So far, we spoke about the really cool stuff, the really hardworking stuff. Because Amit, this is hard work. Going down and meeting people, researching on the ground is not for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? So we spoke about how Amit's research came across with a lot of interesting conclusions, and how that then shapes out the recommendations on themes and sectors. In this part, we're going to talk about actual recommendations, about actual forward-looking stuff that Amit's research is telling him. Amit, all yours. Take it away from here. Tell us about themes, tell us about sectors, what your research is saying. Let's just go deep into that.
Okay. So there are certain conclusions which we have drawn after our primary research, after our Scuttlebutt. And these themes are basically based on which we then again go and buy certain stocks. So one of the things which we feel very strongly about is that, and now we have almost a decade data to actually support that is that the real wages will not go up too much. So people have to work longer, harder, more number of hours to get the same kind of wages. And now we have the data for like 10 years that the white collar job wages are actually not going up. Even the lower class, the wages are not going up.
Why is that happening? Any idea about that?
It is just the supply and demand kind of thing.
Sure.
So I'll give you like few examples. From our office till the nearest metro station, the rickshawala, he's charging the same money for 10 years.
Wow.
He's charging the same money for 10 years. The e-rickshawala charges 10 rupees and the normal rickshawala charges 20 rupees.
Okay.
And that has been the case for 10 years. So the lowest denominator is actually not able to raise the their wages. Similarly, if you ask I talk to a lot of banker friends, and they say that they are not getting the same kind of bonuses which was there 10 years ago before the 2008 financial crisis. Similarly, the richest man on this in India or in Asia, Mukesh Bhai, he hasn't got a pay raise for 50 odd years. Okay. Similarly, if you see like the top MBA institute in India, IIM Ahmedabad, if you take out the top 5 cream of the offers, the wages haven't gone up in the last 10 years. It's about 8 to 12 lakhs per annum. So the wages are not actually going up for the white collars. So that becomes a very major theme. So now, but how do you play that? So what we say is that when the wages are not going up, but we are becoming an aspirational society. So the aspiration to upgrade everything is there. So, but when you don't have the wages, how you can upgrade? So you need to have a system where you can get the credit. So the retail credit will go up. So you can have the stocks which can play on that theme. अभी iPhone सबको चाहिए, वो भी latest वाला i11 चाहिए.
चाहे इनकम कम होए नहीं होए, सैलरी मिले नहीं मिले, आईफोन चाहिए या नहीं चाहिए.
And that is also coming from our primary research team कि यार वो lowest denominator वो सहारनपुर में भी जो लड़की है जो घर पे काम करते है उसको भी आईफोन चाहिए और लेटेस्ट चाहिए. Aspiration is there, but again same thing. The rural आप area में जाओ, so they have got the TV now. But they have got electricity, they have got the TV now. But abhi now they're wasting the time seeing the TV and not doing the productive work which can actually add up to their skill and they can raise their wages. So that kind of dichotomy is there within our society. So again, building on that theme that the wages are not going up, but the aspiration to upgrade is there. So you'll upgrade your home, you want a new car every 5 years, 4-5 years, those kind of things, come into play. Then another theme is that the household inflation will actually not decrease too much from here. And I'm not going with the RBI data, which is sort of built on what the vegetables are there, what the seasonality is there and all that. But the household inflation is actually not going down. In the past almost 10 years. So the real, and because the interest rates are too high, the real interest rates are actually always higher. So for a common person, he's always paying 9-10%.
Yeah, obviously. Irrespective of whether the repo is going or falling or up or down, whatever.
Right. So in that, another theme which we have, very follow, which very stringently is that the women of rural area, or I would say tier 2 and tier 3 cities, they are actually going out to supplement the income, household income. So you'll see more and more women actually joining the workforce in the next few years. So that number has actually gone up in the past 4-5 years.
Okay.
But you'll see more people actually, more women, more female employees working there, which would mean that you need a certain backup at the home. So you might see the home security solutions going up. You might also see more consumer durables being consumed. So you see more refrigerators coming in, more washing machines coming in. So those are certain themes which we are working on.
Okay, so Amit, let's just recap the specific sectors that you like, that you're bullish on.
Right. So one theme I have talked about earlier in the podcast, and that is the electricity consumption is going up. So you'll have themes around it. I don't want to play that with the utilities or the power producers. Again, that the PSU kind of thing comes in. So we are quite bullish on that theme, and we are invested in a lot of those names.
Okay.
Another theme which is a cyclical theme, and it's probably a bipolar theme in the market is buying the PSU banks. So what I feel is whenever the corporate balance sheets get deleveraged, and that happens always every 5-6 years, when the corporate balance sheets get deleveraged, there is always a turnaround in the cycle for PSU banks. So in the past almost 3 years now since the IBC has come, you have seen like big accounts which were NPA, those getting resolved. So you have got your SR Steel, Bhushan Steel and Power. All those have reached a conclusion. Obviously, banks have to take a haircut, but at least the balance sheets have got cleaner. So I expect that process to, continue.
Okay.
You'll always have, one default here and there. So you'll have probably a Altico default, which has happened recently, 6,000 crores. So, but that is normal part and parcel of a banking business.
Yeah.
You'll always have businesses defaulting just because of mismanagement.
Sure.
So, so when the corporate balance sheet gets deleveraged and the next corporate lending has to come from these kind of things, and we know what has happened to NBFCs and the mutual fund lending in the past 12 months or so. So I see them BSU banks actually taking advantage, though I would stay probably with the top couple of top names only.
Okay.
In that.
Understood. So, Amit, we're kind of done. I want you to leave our listeners with specific advice in terms of their overall strategy in equity for the long term. See, what's happened is that when you have days like we had last week, you've had massive days, there is a fear of missing out. If market goes down, people think, छोड़ो यार, stocks में कोई interest in gold खरीदे, gold का भाव तो कहीं का कहीं पहुंच गया. I would just leave our listeners with two things. Okay, one is your view on equities overall on the long term as a wealth creation tool for all of us, right? Because people could be buying stocks directly, they could be buying through mutual funds, but ultimately the exposure to stocks ko hi hai. That's the first thing. Any advice specifically on that? And second thing is help our listeners on the PMS product, because you're a fund manager on the PMS side. Okay, maybe some small tips for those listeners who want to invest in the PMS, because this product has exploded in the last few years. So let's just end on that note.
Right. So, as far as the equity allocation is concerned, we have seen that the wealth creation comes only when you are invested for a longer period of time. So once you have identified, you have done all the hard work of, identifying an opportunity, let it grow. Don't, कि आज profit book कर लेते हैं, कल profit book कर लेते हैं. You can always play around with the allocations in the portfolio. So 5%, you can book 1%, and when the stock goes into consolidation, it comes back with a trigger. You can always play around with the allocation. But to make wealth, you need to be invested. Otherwise, you will miss it. Like for example, I can tell you the recent example. Since almost 20th of June. We were constantly pushing this notion that the risk of not being invested in this market is far more than actually being invested in seeing some M2M.
Wow.
And we have maintained that all through 3 months, all through the fall which is happening. The certain reasons were actually economy based, which we have already written. So people knew from where we are coming, because we have already written that, the slowdown is there, this is going to hit, there will be downgrades in the earnings. And that happened. So why it is a surprise now?
Right.
Now it is the time to actually go ahead and buy. Yeah. So when you are promoting that notion and the turnaround comes, then people will, certainly appreciate that, staying invested is important. So I expect, going forward also, people can find that opportunities in the market where they can stay invested and actually make wealth over the next 4-5 years.
Got it. Last question, the PMS thing.
Right. So, the most important thing is what I actually find in the most of the PMSs which are prevalent around. There are some, we are very new to the PMS industry, that there is not a very good clarity on the investment strategy. It becomes a collection of stocks. So I always say that you have to, whenever you are investing, you need to ask whether you have an investment strategy or not. Be comfortable with the fund manager you are investing in, because ultimately, he is actually investing in your money and giving you that expected returns.
Sure.
So it is very critical that you are comfortable with the investment strategy and see whether that is fitting into your risk appetite or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. So, Amit, how can people reach out to you? I mean, what is your website? What is your Twitter handle? People want to know more about Adroit. How can they reach out to you?
Right. So our website is www.adroitfinancial, financial.com. And I'm pretty active on Twitter as well. My handle is Amit Gupta, 0310.
Okay.
And I'm there on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Folks, so feel free to reach out to Amit. He's just given his Twitter handle and the website. That is a wrap on this very special Scuttlebutt special. There's so much of value when you go out there and listen to stories on the ground. My guest, Amit Kumar Gupta, a fund manager, PMS at Adroit Financial Services Private Limited. If you like this episode, do let me know. I'm B50 on Twitter. Leave us a rating, leave us a ranking on your podcast app. Other than that, Amit, thank you so much for doing this recording for us, for coming over to Paisa Vaisa. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you, Anupam. Thank you for having me.
Folks, thank you so much for listening. That's a wrap on this episode.
No material on this show should be considered as financial advice. The material on this show is for informational purposes only. Please consult a financial advisor before taking any investment decision.
Look! Up in the internet! It's a meme! No! It's a cat video! No! It's the Geek Fruit Podcast!
That's right, we interrupt this riveting broadcast to tell you about our show, the Geek Fruit Podcast, where Tejas, Dinkar and I, Jishnu, talk about everything in pop culture, including DC, Marvel, Star Wars, Netflix and everything in between.
You know how your friends hate it when you ramble about some nerdy crap and you just want somebody to listen to you? Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that, but come listen to us ramble and it'll almost be like the real thing. Kind of.
Listen to new episodes of the Geek Fruit Podcast every Monday and the Geek Fruit Bulletin every Thursday on iTunes, Google Podcasts, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy listening, you nerds.
How many times have you caught yourself Googling stuff on health and wondering if it's the right information? How many times have you heard different health experts give opposing views, which has only left you confused? There are rising cases of cancer, heart, diabetes, stress, and autoimmune diseases. Meet the patients and the experts who paved the path of true healing. Join me, Rachna Chachi, cancer nutrition coach and nutritional therapist on Heal and Hearty. I take you through my own journey of recovery from an incurable disease and the journey of so many others who healed only via nutrition and holistic healing. Find the answers you seek for what's good for your health and what's good for your soul. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. Don't forget your date with good health.